New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Hi, welcome back to Global Focus Today. I am Reverend Sharri Johnson, your host, and today we always interview focus ministers, and they are by definition unique. They don't have pulpits, they have special focus for their ministries, but today's guest has taken it a step further in uniqueness. Practitioner Marco Carrillo has already started his focus ministry, even though he's not yet in ministerial school, planning to go, but not there yet. So let's get him in here and find out what's going on, shall we? Hey, Marco, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Reverend Sharri. Good to see you.
You know, I just love the idea that you have ministry and you're going to ministerial school, but you haven't got there yet. So what I want to know is, since you're doing things a little out of order, shall we say, how did you get there? I mean, how long have you known you were going to be a minister? How long have you known you were going to live in service?
That is such an interesting question, because I really started feeling the itch for ministry when I was a child. I actually really was geared. I grew up in the Catholic faith. And I thought being a priest would be such a great idea. And so the call came early, Sharri. The call came early. But most recently, I came out late in life as a gay man at the age of 49, and something of that journey of authenticity really spoke to me. And I feel that service was where my healing and my voice would best be heard. So that's how it kind of came to be.
So welcome to the I Grew Up Catholic Club. I think if you put 1,000 New Thought people in a room, 875 of them would have grown up Catholic.
I've seen that.
But nobody holds it against us, and so that's a good thing, and that's part of the definition of New Thought. But what was it like growing up as Marco the child?
Well, it was interesting because I was raised as an only child in Los Angeles, California, the only son of immigrants from Cuba. So, the struggle was real, Sharri. It was working 2 jobs. I often had nannies that would take care of me. And, I noticed that early on that there was something very unique and different about me, but also that it wasn't celebrated. That was almost cause for shame. And, so a lot of my journey was a joyful kid, a very precocious kid, very much intellectually within, and in that dialogue, that divine dialogue happened very early on, seeking to be accepted. So that was
Now, if that's the case, how come you waited till you were 49 to come in?
that is a good question. There are so many cultural nuances for my generation, really, as far as not only growing up Hispanic, but Catholic. And I saw the cues all around me that indicated that I was less than, that I was perhaps broken, and that I was not really to be celebrated. So really, I spent most of my life seeking outside influences for my acceptance, including designing the perfect Norman Rockwell picture of white picket fence, great house, wife with 3 adult children now, putting them through college and all of that. Anything to be accepted. And somewhere in the middle of that journey, the real Marco was buried and replaced by one that felt that could be accepted. But that house of cards would soon crumble.
Well, and I behind you that sentence, I hear the dark soul, night of the soul that we all go through.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're human, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I expect for gay people, it's probably a whole lot harder than it is for the rest of us.
It is. It really is. And why 49? I think there was something very symbolic about reaching the age of 50 and still being in this struggle and holding my family captive in my struggle, which was all part of the shame story. And I met my ex-wife when we were high school sweethearts. She was 17, I was 18, and we pretty much grew up together. We were together for 31 years, married for 25. And at one point, I realized whatever doubts she has about herself, many of them rely on me, on the perhaps the clarification that it's not you, it's not you that I'm not attracted to you. It's not you that aren't enough. So I felt she was young enough, intelligent, beautiful, to really be loved by somebody in the way that I felt she deserved to be loved. So I had to release her.
Wow.
It was hard. It was hard because I had put all of.
Do you have any idea how unique that compassionate approach to coming out is?
Yeah, I suppose so, but
I mean, I'm just impressed as all get out. Y'all are still good friends, aren't you?
we are. But one thing we did understand, and we were told repeatedly, was that we were classic textbook codependents.
Well, that probably made it a little more challenging.
Yeah, so really, I needed to address that, and part of that is the reality that separation was really the most effective way for each of us to flourish as our authentic, true selves.
Yeah.
So I had to let that one go.
So, say a little more about the dark night of your soul, but I also want to know how forgiveness was part of the healing, because it sounds to me like there was forgiveness getting just spewed all over the place.
Oh yeah, forgiveness has been the key, actually, for myself and for others. Being that everything was so shame-laden. I mean, literally, when I walked away from my home that I had built, basically 3 days before my 50th birthday. No coincidence there. I left with literally a few hefty bags worth of clothes, my CD collection, my dog, and a television set. So that shame, the only way to really address it was through forgiveness, through radical forgiveness of myself, and really to enter. I like to call it a season of the soul, because I thought, hey, presto changeo, I'm out, I'm clear, I'm back in integrity with myself. It's all done. No, it's not.
You really
No, it's not.
flip a switch and you're through. Oh, what a hoot. You were so naive.
I know.
So tell us how you got through that.
Oh my gosh, getting through that, because actually this ministry has been birthed, I believe, in the thick of it, which I believe makes it that much more authentic, because I'm going through my seasons of the soul and discovering the true Marco that had been buried. So yeah, it's been tough, but I got to tell you, like most people, it takes a deep trauma, I think, to flip the switch and to dive deep into the healing. And I discovered new thought. I didn't discover. Let me clarify that. When I first stumbled across an official New Thought message, I literally felt I could complete the message myself, because I knew all of this intrinsically, even as a child. I knew I wasn't an error. I knew that I was an equal child of God, no better, no less, just an emanation of the One. I knew that. But everything around me was telling me no. So that season has actually been very challenging, and but New Thought and the teachings of Science of Mind, of Unity, they have all brought me to this place of gratefulness, of forgiveness, and of really wanting to, see how I can serve.
So, like Anais Nin said, you reached a point where the pain of staying in the bud was more than the pain of blooming.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, I could recall, Sharri, probably within a month of me leaving my home in my new apartment, which coincidentally was just a few blocks away from my old one, just so I could be close to my son. And I had a bed, but I wouldn't even sleep on it. I would sleep on the floor in the embryonic position, like in fetal position. And the pain was gut wrenching. It was absolutely gut wrenching. By profession, I was a realtor, still am for 20 years, very successful, and very blessed that way. It really provided everything that Norman Rockwell canvas that I painted needed to flourish. But I went from that to literally selling my plasma for money to pay for a Happy Meal for my son, for being top producer to that. And I put myself there, the shame, the trauma. But yeah, it just compelled me to dive deep, deep, deep into these teachings and devoured them. And yeah, so I'm in a much different place today.
Well, I'm glad to hear it, because I want to hear about Si se puede.
Yes, si se puede. That's correct. That's Spanish for yes, you can. So talking a little bit about real estate, I was having this love-hate relationship at the time with my profession, because I'm like, all right, well, I want to go into ministerial studies because I know that that's where my heart is leading, but I got to make a buck, and there's a reason why I've received this talent to do very well in real estate. So I figured, how do I marry the two? And it occurred to me that one of the things that brought me out of, or within my dark nights of the soul, was a situation with my immediate family, my mother, my father, and two half siblings, my brothers, that were all living in one house that was falling apart, all of them suffering from different levels of dementia, incapable of taking care of themselves. The universe provided an assignment for me. And from the embryonic position, from the fetal position, I had to leap up and say, here I am to take care of these people who are defenseless, because nobody else would. In doing that, I discovered that they had been perpetual renters since they moved to this country in 1960. They met in New York and never purchased a house until 1995. And had it not been for that short period of time that they actually owned a property, they would not have enough money to even bury themselves. That struck a nerve, Sharri. Struck a very nerve with me. And I'm like, I know the immigrant struggle is real, and that there's a certain level, there's a certain percentage of the population, of the immigrant population, that will remain perpetual renters because they feel they're second-class citizens. They perhaps the process of being a homeowner is too complicated, not for them, and they remain in this perpetual state of, feeling like they're a second-class citizen. So Si Se Puede was birthed from that realization that all the empowerment that I've used for myself in changing limiting beliefs and coming into my authentic self is no different than the power that can be used to help somebody move out of that state of mind into another state of mind where they can own a property, stand a little taller, and just feel proud that they are a significant part of this community. So that's how I married the two. And it's a surgical approach of delivering universal principle, spiritual principle, wrapped up in home ownership.
That just tickles me. that just, because one of the things I know about New Thought is that it's not a Sunday morning, Wednesday evening kind of thing. It's a way of life.
It is.
And when you create a program that marries that way of life with a profession that allows you to do all of the things you need to do, well, that's as good as it gets.
Yeah.
So that being the case, I want to get to True North, but I want to know a little bit more about your relationship with community and in community first. Tell us how you became a community-oriented, serving the community, developing True North kind of thing.
Absolutely. Well, as I mentioned, the first time that I stumbled across a Center for Spiritual Living was one of the darkest nights of the soul. It was literally the day that I came out to my wife, and it was so distressing that I didn't see any type of relief. It was something that I knew was coming. I ended up a botched attempt to take my own life, honestly. And after I fumbled through that, I was escorted out of a place where I was trying to pass out. A police officer said, "You can't be here. We're trying to build the road." And I'm like, "Can't you see I'm trying to take my life?" So I knew that wasn't going to happen. It would never happen because I just didn't have it in me. But it was literally a call for help. I then drove through Wilton Manors in Fort Lauderdale, which is a very heavily gay populated area. And I noticed one building where the lights were still on, and it was Centers for Spiritual Living in Fort Lauderdale. So I went there and came across a Reiki circle and some wonderful ladies that took me in and made me promise them that I would not leave that place until they were finished with their circle. I didn't keep my promise. I left. But I remembered, and I came back to thank them a few weeks later, and that's when I heard Dr. Arlene Bump deliver a message of authenticity. And needless to say, the tears just flowed profusely. And that's the moment I felt I can switch places with her and finish this message, because I know this is the truth, and I've known it all along. So fast forward, I start taking A Course of Miracles over at Bridges Spiritual Centers. Then Dr. Charles Geddes, whom I adore and I refer to as my Papa Bear, I adopted as my Papa Bear, and started doing the Course of Miracles there. Met John Harold Moore, who was actually facilitating them at the time. And before you knew it, I was taking foundational classes in CSL, devouring every class I could possibly take for my own healing, and serving as a media director there and for their services, and then on the board of directors as well. So immediately I just said, this is my tribe.
You found a Marco-shaped hole.
I sure did. Oh, I love how that sounds. Yeah, I sure did. And
so, and I can see how you got started in the spiritual community, but how did you spread that out into the geographical community, around the center?
Yeah. Well, the center is located in a place that's heavily LGBT populated, and I started hearing the stories and hearing the pain that still resonated there. And honestly, I don't think I would have come out, and I probably would have died in the closet had I not felt that people before me, in any form, created an environment that made me feel safe enough to come out. And I felt I needed to pay that forward. So I did get involved with the Pride Center in Wilton Manors and get to know my LGBT brothers and sisters who still felt a little bit lost and had a heart for that. So I started doing community outreach and volunteering there as well. And yeah, and I realized that my healing is in service.
And so did that morph into True North?
It has. It has morphed into True North, which is something that I, by my own research and just my own heart, I felt that that's where our power is in our authenticity. And with the LGBT community, especially in the current environment, which I think by appearances, it seems like we're backsliding a bit in the country. You and I, as New Thought leaders, know that this is actually growth. Growth is not linear. It comes in contractions and expansions. So, but I feel the call to be something, to be a voice of love, of alternatives when it comes to what's happening in the environment now. To really show up in my authentic self and let other people just do the same thing, to find that true north, which represents their true self, their best, highest self.
Now I have to ask, you're in Florida. How did you come up with a name like True North?
I think it had a lot to do with the compass, that, the compass always points eventually to true north. And there's something empowering about that. So it really had nothing to do with location, more about direction. And to me,
write that down. You want to use that.
What now?
I said, write that down. You want to use that. It didn't have much to do with location, just direction, especially coming from a realtor.
Yes. So and talking about in real estate terms, it is your GPS. It is your internal GPS that if you really tap into it and allow it to move you, you'll move in the right direction. Because we're all divine creatures, and we all have a very unique heart print that is ours to speak. And for me personally, I'm still discovering what that is, because when you spend 50 years bearing it, it's almost like a journey of self-discovery. It's like what floats my boat, what tickles my fancy.
So what's next on the agenda?
Well, I have actually, here in the Orlando area, I moved. I felt that I needed to reset and start. In 2021, I lost 5 family members all at once within a scope of 11 months or so, which was pretty traumatic. But the ties to South Florida weren't as strong at that point. My kids are all living their great lives throughout the state, mostly in the middle of the state. So I joined Greater Orlando Centers for Spiritual Living, and tomorrow actually is our second official LGBTQ plus spiritually social group that I started at the center, and we are coming up with ways that we could actually make a difference to this current environment in love. And one thing that has really inspired that was the story that I'm sure you're aware of, that during the Vietnam War, those people that represent peace, like Mother Teresa, were approached to attend anti-war rallies and whatnot, and she refused those invitations, but she said that she would accept one for a pro-peace rally, which to me, it really framed the way that I like to pursue my future endeavors with True North, is coming from a place of education, of love, not of combating or defending. And so that's the group that we're putting together, and it's already doubled in just 1 month.
Wow, that's amazing. I love it.
There was a hunger here, Sharri. There's a hunger here, and I was looking for a tribe locally here. I didn't find one, so I'm like, let me create it then. If it's not there, let me just create it.
So, so what do you think about the current headlines that are happening right now regarding the LGBTQ plus community?
You know, it's interesting you bring that up. I had yesterday of all days my first encounter, and I thought about you, and I thought about our talk today, because I'm like, this is not a coincidence. So there's a place called World of Beer that gives $5.95 burgers on Monday nights. And I said, I want to get one of those because they're big old juicy burgers. So I went in there, I got my burger, and I sat at the bar to have my burger, and I started hearing a conversation on the other side of the bar. A gentleman who had gone to a talk that was hosted by a drag queen who reads to children. And unfortunately, that man came away from that with a very warped interpretation of what was happening. He was very angry. And I thought, this is an opportunity for me to present in love, and it's none of my business, but it is my business. So I very gently, spoke up, and I tried to the best I can to educate that this is not about taking children and hurting them in any way. It's a person's expression of art. It's an art form, and people in the LGBT community, I believe, straddle two worlds, on the spectrum of gender, and as opposed to being condemned, I think that should be celebrated, to really unite two ways of thinking, and that's what I did. I said, I'm really sorry that you had this experience. But his opinion was formulated by a gentleman who took offense and maybe did not explain drag and explain what they were doing in the best sense, but became defensive himself. He said, I'm not a female impersonator, I'm a drag artist, and this and that. And unfortunately, this man came away from not the clearest understanding of what that meant. So the headlines do matter. And it's a consciousness, and I believe that we are called, whatever it is that we're called to do, to respond, not against the ignorant, but again against the ignorance, with education and with love.
A picture popped into my mind when you were describing that. My little sister was lesbian, and my baby sister, her widow, of course, still is. And so I've been around drag queens all my life, all my adult life, and have found the art fantastic. I mean, it's astounding. And what I saw when you were talking about this drag queen reading to children, what an adorable thought, was a picture of the story of Lon Chaney's life and what he went through for the art that was required for him to become Quasimodo.
Yes. There's a tremendous power. So drag, to me,
it is artistry, and it's not just acting and singing. I guess there are folks who would think it's maybe method acting, but it is a remarkable art form, and I think that as people begin to understand that sexuality is not an on-off switch, it's a continuum, then they will begin to, I hope, I'm an ally, so I hope they will begin to understand that different skills can perform different arts, just like there's a huge difference between Da Vinci's Mona Lisa and the guy who wraps cities. I can't remember his name, but it starts with Christo. Yes, I remember some of the stuff he did. but nobody denies that either one of those things is art.
That's right. That's right.
Art,
This
like
is triggering.
else in the world, evolves.
Drag is triggering because it has been considered a protest too. And drag queens really are responsible for being on the front line of LGBT rights. From Stonewall in New York, they were the ones who threw the first brick and said enough of this. We are no different than you. We're not here. This is our safe space, our sanctuary. But to your point, there's a tremendous amount of power, and I think what I see happening right now is that I'm a tremendous fan of RuPaul's Drag Race, which has become an international phenomenon. It's a reality program. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it.
I am. I've seen it. I love it. It makes me giggle.
It does, and I will tell you, in my dark nights of the soul, it has been one of my biggest saviors, aside from all my books and my tribe, because you see what happens when somebody puts on the lashes or puts on the wigs and gives themselves permission to be their authentic self.
There you go.
You know, and that's powerful. It's
And what I
very
love about it is that is what they are saying is that my authentic self is not unidimensional.
That's right.
My authentic self has many dimensions, and this is just one of them.
Yes.
And that's important because it's true for everybody, not just for drag queens.
For sure. And the environment I think we're seeing today, Sharri, is fear-based because
Yes.
this franchise of RuPaul has become such a worldwide phenomenon that it has become mainstream, so much so that children are gravitating towards it. Now, I gotta tell you, most drag queens that I've met don't want to have children in their audiences. They want to be their vulgar selves. They want to be able to do their mouth and do their thing. And I love it. So they didn't ask to be put in this position, but it's contagious. It's one of those things that children understand an adult at play. This is play.
You just said the magic words, an adult at play. We think adults are not supposed to play.
That's right.
Adults are supposed to do things that are fun, but adults are not supposed to play.
Yeah. So most drag queens don't want the kids at the shows.
I just adore the idea of a drag queen doing reading for children. I mean, because it's open, it's generous. Children love to be read to,
Mm-hmm.
and it's love. It's just love and kindness and generosity, and I hope that person won't stop.
Yeah, and again, I think eventually this person will meet the right people. I'm not sure who that person is, but I know that they will meet the right person to help guide them and basically providing a little bit more love and understanding when they're explaining the art form, and not be so defensive. Because this gentleman that we talked to about over at the hamburger place, he came out with an opinion that unfortunately just solidified his side a little bit more without really being able to explore these other options.
What he said was, "Oh, just because I said so."
Yeah, and I'm like, would you formulate your opinions on anything political based on social media or on one opinion?
And I would not, but then I have not oatmeal between my ears. Unfortunately, I believe there are an awful lot of people in this society who do.
They take the shortcut.
Political opinions based on social media.
Yeah, and with the reading to children, there is definitely a feminine mystique in drag performers that obviously propels them to actually go into an exaggerated female mode, but it's all in love. It's most drag personas, or gay people would love to be parents as well. There's that nurturing maternal instinct and that caring, and it's unfortunate that it has to be interpreted as being hurtful when
I have to stop you, Marco. It is unfortunate that it has been interpreted. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah, it has.
That's the job of True North.
Yes, yes. And really, True North is just that, is a series of modalities of programs. I love, for example, Michael Bernard Beckwith visioning program.
Oh, I do that.
Um, I love, things like and anything like the artist within. These are all things that we are going to be employing in True North workshops to discover what is it that makes you happy. What is your true north? How do you play? What's your vision? Just giving people permission to dream again.
So that was the best segue I've ever had for my next question. I have a series of questions that I ask every single guest, and this is the first one. 10 years from now, presuming that every single thing goes exactly the way you want it to go, what does True North look like?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. Yeah, True North looks like a international place that is accessible to anyone, either through the internet or in person, with really defined programming that propels them to their highest and best. And I see it taking hold and saving lives. Hopefully, if it's only one, that's fine. But if just one soul could live their authentic life, even if it's late in life, because that was a big question for me. Sharri is like, is this too late? Can I recuperate my life? And the answer is no, it's not too late. When you stop breathing, it's too late. Uh, and Dr. Charles Geddes was one of my inspirations when it comes to that, because he started a brand new ministry in Montana at the ripe old age of 80, and he's doing great. So I want men that are trapped in, and women that are trapped in this idea that they cannot be themselves, to really embrace this environment and to have True North be a beacon of light and serving community to awaken people to the truth that we're all the same. We're all in here, wanting to love each other and just be, nothing else.
Okay, here's my next one. They get tougher. Okay, here's the next one. How does your ministry, True North, how does it enhance, embrace, encourage, pick your own verb, conscious evolution?
I love that. And I love the fact that I saw True North as my savior, as my personal escape into my truth. But the truth of the matter is that it is consciousness at large that is blessed. Because if I can demonstrate how my life would look like living my authentic self, that vibration, it resonates forever and it brings consciousness up. So I do see more and more people awakening to their truth and educating others about it. You can't help but raise the vibration of the consciousness of the universe by adding love, right?
Okay, all right, here's the next one. How does True North enhance, embrace, encourage, support, pick your own verb, world peace?
Yeah, very similar answer. If our consciousness is risen and we become aware of the areas that could use a little bit more love, and that we could bring peace as we are into the equation, that's a fundamental part of True North, is to make sure that whoever is attending the programs, they understand that they are peace, and that their joy, their healing is to be found in that, in the love and the peace that they bring. So again, being emissaries, having them graduate from the programs as masters of their own life, but as emissaries of peace as well.
Okay, I've got one more, but before I ask it, I want to know, do you have anything important, events, opportunities, classes, workshops coming up now that people need to know about?
Absolutely. Well, like I mentioned, I have the LGBTQ plus community right now. Orlando and Florida has been an epicenter of a lot of this hate speak that we're hearing in the environment. So, but it doesn't mean that it's not trickling throughout other areas like Tennessee and other areas. So they can actually join by going into gocsl.org, which is Greater Orlando Centers for Spiritual Living.org, and click on LGBTQ plus and join virtually as well. So we can have folks from all over the country participate as well.
All righty. And here's the last question that I ask everybody because it's so important. Will you come back?
Oh my goodness. For you, anything. I love you. I adore you.
Now, here we go, Marco. I'm nobody's dummy. I've got my calendar out right now. And the first opening I have is December 19th. Will you come?
Let's consider it done.
All right, you're in the schedule. Yay!
Writing it down.
And folks who are watching, please come back again next week. We have a marvelous return guest, Reverend Dr. Michelle Whittington. She is the executive director of Anton, the affiliated New Thought Network, but she also has a wonderful ministry, what's it called? A coaching business. I believe it's coaching called Unleash Your Life. Can you imagine a better offer than that? Let's unleash your life. So come back and visit with Reverend Dr. Michelle again next week. And in the meantime, have the best week ever. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Amazing. Amazing, you will do amazing things. Amazing, amazing, you will do amazing things.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network, come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings.